Hi and welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Hello if you are a returning subscriber, and a big hello if you are a new subscriber. And if you like what you see, it would be awfully nice if you could like and subscribe at the end. Anyway, with that done, let's have a little look at today's video, which is a Beatles thread response for Kia Smith at a channel called From Me to You, quite a new Beatles channel. And I came across this via Beatly Tone, who has done this thread as well. So I'm not a Beatles channel, so those tuning in for the first time, I do all kinds of music, but I am a big Beatles fan, and every now and again I do kind of pop my head above the water to Beatles land and pop something on the channel. Normally not too seriously, but so I'm quite pleased with this thread because it gives me an opportunity to kind of tell you about my Beatles kind of experience and why I enjoy them. So little shout out to Pat at the channel A Little Beatles Corner, who subscribes to me and is manfully wading through all kinds of obscure bands that she has no idea what they are, so hopefully she'll enjoy this one. So hi Pat. Right, so without further ado, my favourite Beatles album, gonna cheat. This is the first Beatles album that I came across because it's my mum and dad's copy. It was the only Beatles album in our household when I was growing up, and it was the one that when I learned to drive, I got my first cassette recorder in a car and I copied all of these albums, and this is how I kind of really got into the Fabs in the pre-CD kind of reissues of '87. So this was my Beatles journey. So the Beatles box from Liverpool, 8 albums, some unique mixes on there. There's lots of videos on this box set, but I think this is well worth having. If you can find one in really good condition, it's fab. If you kind of ignore the slightly cheesy, do my best to do this, cheesy covers, the actual music is fantastic. So that's the one I would go for. Secondly then, so the second question is, what is your favourite Beatles solo album? If I'd have done this 10 years ago, it would have been a John album all the way. In the last probably 10 years, possibly due to all the YouTube channels giving some of these albums a push, I've kind of really familiarised myself with the McCartney catalogue in a way that I probably wasn't before. I grew up in the 80s where Paul was really known for the Frog Song and Ringo was for Thomas the Tank. So with John's death, I was 100% a John fan. When George passed away, I checked all the George albums out, and McCartney I've left till quite late. So I'm going to go with the one I've listened to probably the most is Ram. This isn't the white album, this is actually the mono reissue of Ram. And that's a great album, isn't it? So saying no more, but Backseat in My Car, stuff like that, great album. So yeah, so that's the one I've probably listened to the most in the last 5 years. Best unreleased song that they didn't release in their lifetime. So I'm going to pick up Anthology one, probably the weakest of the anthologies really, isn't it? But it does have Leave My Kitten Alone on it, which would have greatly enhanced Beatles for Sale, so that's why I would have picked that one. Take a song off the White Album that is not Revolution 9. I quite like Revolution 9. It's a spooky song, isn't it? It's quite, if you listen to it in the right circumstances, particularly in the dark at night, it's quite a spooky song. But the one I'd boot off is, and this is down to Charles Manson, so blame him. This album has connotations with the Manson murders, doesn't it? So I'm going to get rid of Piggies. Sorry, George. It was between that and Helter Skelter. So Piggies Bites the Dust to hopefully it would have changed history, and Charlie Manson might not have done what he did. And obviously that's off the White Album. There's my UK mono numbered top loader. So for those that like that type of stuff. So next question, number 5. Imagine make up your own A and B side. So make a single that wasn't a single. Hopefully I've explained that right. So I would give John a bit of a boost, because every time John came up with a really good song, you know, I'm the Wall or something like that, Paul had gone out doing with an even better, poppier song. So the biggest travesty for me is the original rock version of Revolution was relegated to a B-side. So I would make Revolution an A-side. And to give John a bit more singles kudos, I'm going to give him Julia as the B-side, because that's a perfect kind of example of the two sides of John Lennon, isn't it? So have that. Best album from '73. And not Band on the Run, so because you're not allowed to use that one. So the other 4, to be absolutely honest with you, none of them in my opinion are great albums, but this is probably the one I would pick as my favourite. This is the 2002 CD remix, remaster, which obviously they've done again now recently, but that does dramatically enhance the listening experience of that album. Right, best of the reunion singles. Freeze a Bird, Real Love, Now and Then. So best video is definitely Freeze a Bird. That's a fantastic video, isn't it? It's like an Easter egg of Beatles video. I love Real Love, but I have to say Now and Then, that was such an emotional kind of return, wasn't it? So yeah, I'm going to go with Now and Then. That's the Spotify 10-inch, worth a small fortune. There you go. Favourite Ringo song, so I'm going to go for Goodbye from the Right album, purely because I was at a funeral and that was one of the songs used at the end, and actually very emotional when it's in that setting. So that done. Favourite cover, here's a little thing, the CD EP, so I'm going to go for, they're quite nicely done actually, if you haven't seen them. I'm going to go for Slow Down, good song that is. Number 10, what do the Beatles mean to you? Well, pretty simple. I'm going to basically say the Beatles to me are the gold standard by which all of the bands are judged. So I'm probably more critical of Beatles reissues, because when they get them right, which isn't that often sadly, they dramatically enhance, you know, kind of the story of the music. So yeah, so the Fabs to me, they're the gold standard by which all of the bands are judged, and they're just brilliant. And I go to Liverpool an awful lot, probably way too much, might have to have a little break, but I love going around all the different, I've been to the National Trust homes, all the various museums, and I'm a proper Beatle nut, and I'm in my element when I go over to Liverpool. So short and sweet. So thank you, Kia, for doing the thread. One last shout out. If you're a big Beatles fan, there's loads of Beatles channels on YouTube, and I subscribe to way too many sometimes. But there's one that's just come back. It's had a little bit of a break, and just to confuse you, there's two Beatle Daves. There's Beatle Dave from Derby, the record collector, who's a bus driver. That's a good channel. But I'm going to shout out Beatle Dave's Beatle channel. It's a very brilliant channel. It's a bit, the way I describe it is the Bruce Spicer of Beatles YouTube channels, because he literally must spend hours doing his videos, where he shows you the matrices, the all the different presses that came out in the 60s and up to a point, I think he does 60s to something like 73, something like that. So it's a really, really good channel. And if you want to know more about obscure kind of pressings and how to differentiate between a first, a third and a fifth press, that's the channel for you. So and he's just come back, so good to see Beatle Dave's Beatle channel back on the channel. And yeah, that's me done. If you have enjoyed this and you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It kind of helps. Still quite a new channel, so anyone that does kind of do that, it greatly helps me. I am coming up to a few milestones in terms of numbers and things like that, so the more that kind of join the journey, the better. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.